Most people walk past the homeless without a second glance, a blur in their peripheral vision, an inconvenience they choose to ignore. But what if one of those invisible figures wasn't just another lost soul, but someone on the brink of building an empire? David Carter wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't a genius entrepreneur with a Silicon Valley pitch. A year ago, he was just another man sleeping on the cold pavement, forgotten by the world. But what happened next? That's what no one saw coming. David had everything once: a steady career as an accountant, a family he adored, a normal life. But fate doesn't always play fair. One night, a drunk driver ran a red light, and in an instant, his wife and daughter were gone. Just gone. Grief swallowed him whole. He stopped caring, stopped working, stopped showing up for life. The bills piled up, the eviction notice came, and before he even had the strength to fight back, he was on the streets. Nights were brutal, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. Days weren't much better. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but worse than that was the way people looked right through him. Then came that night. The night that should have just been another chapter in his endless cycle of misery. A young homeless man, barely in his 20s, was cornered in an alley. 3 guys, drunk, laughing, pushed him against a wall, taking what little he had left. David should have kept walking, should have ignored it. But something inside him snapped. "Hey!" His voice was hoarse from days without speaking much. The guys turned, amused at the sight of a scruffy homeless man trying to play hero. The punch came fast. Pain exploded in his ribs. Then another, and another. When they finally left, laughing as they disappeared into the night, David lay there, gasping for air, every inch of him screaming in pain. But beneath the pain, there was something else. For the first time in years, he had done something that mattered. The next morning, still bruised and aching, David found himself near a small diner. The smell of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon made his stomach twist. He had no money, no pride left to beg. Then a voice broke through his haze. "You look like hell," said an old man standing in the doorway, Richard Lawson, owner of the place, sharp blue eyes that had clearly seen more than they let on. David braced for the usual, "Get lost." But instead, Richard handed him a steaming cup of coffee. No pity in his eyes, just something David hadn't seen in a long time. Recognition. "Need work?" David hesitated. Yeah, I do." And just like that, his life shifted. At first, it was just small jobs, cleaning tables, carrying boxes. But Richard saw something in him, something David had long forgotten. "You used to be good with numbers, huh?" Richard asked one night, sliding a notebook across the table. "Take a look at my books. Tell me where I'm screwing up." David stared at the pages. Numbers had always made sense to him, even when life didn't. He picked up a pen, and for the first time in forever, his brain felt alive again. Days turned into weeks. Then, one evening, Richard leaned back and said, "Ever think about starting something of your own?" David laughed. "With what money?" Richard smirked. "Did I ask if you had money? Or if you had ideas?" The next day, David took the biggest risk of his life. With the little cash he had saved, he bought a dented old coffee cart, fixed it up, set it on a street corner. The first morning was brutal. People ignored him. Business was slow. Then a woman in a business suit stopped, took a sip. "This is good." And just like that, word spread. Soon he wasn't just selling coffee, he was building something. With every dollar he made, David reinvested. A second cart, a third. But the real turning point? He started hiring people like him. Marcus was the first, a kid who had been living in a shelter just looking for a shot. Then Lisa, then a dozen more. David wasn't just making money, he was giving second chances. Then came the offer. A corporate giant wanted to buy him out. Millions on the table. An easy way out. David sat in that high-rise office, looking at the thick contract in front of him. "Sell it," the man across from him said. "Retire. Enjoy life." David's eyes drifted to the window. Down below, his coffee carts were still serving people who once had nothing. And in that moment, he knew. He slid the contract back across the table. "I appreciate the offer," he said, "but I'm not selling." David didn't take the millions. Instead, he expanded, opened real cafes, started a foundation. The media called him the homeless man who built an empire. But he didn't care about the headlines. What mattered was walking into one of his cafes and seeing Lisa managing a team, seeing Marcus running a training program for new hires, seeing people who had been discarded by society finally have a place they belonged. Years later, at a charity event, David stood in front of a packed room. "I was invisible once," he said, "and then someone saw me. One chance. That's all it took to change everything." The audience was silent, hanging on his every word. "I don't care how far you've fallen. You are not beyond redemption." Applause erupted. But David, he just smiled, because his legacy wasn't just an empire, it was the lives he had saved. David Carter wasn't a genius. He wasn't lucky. He wasn't given some golden opportunity. He was just a man who refused to stay down. So ask yourself this: what could you build if you refused to give up? Because sometimes, the only thing separating you from success is the decision to stand up one more time. If this story hit you in the heart, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if you believe in second chances, drop a comment below. Who's the one person who changed your life? Because stories like David's, they're not just meant to be told. They're meant to inspire action.